Okay, let's cast our minds back to 2021. For most people, interacting with digital assets basically meant one thing: buying some cartoon animal, crossing your fingers at 10x, flipping it, and doing the whole thing over again. It was just this era of wild, pure speculation. Twitter liked to call it investing, but the harsh reality, we were basically just gambling with JPEGs. And the fallout from that era? It is honestly staggering. 98%. Think about that. An astounding 98% of collections from that 2021 craze are now completely worthless. They're sitting at absolute zero, and the wallets holding them are basically digital ghost towns. But here is where it gets really fascinating. Collecting digital assets didn't actually die out. It just evolved. And this evolution really comes down to one powerful mindset shift. It's the difference between bags and collections. Bags, right, they're bought to dump. It's a short-term trade. But collections are built to keep, to use, and to compound over time. One is a total gamble. The other is a thoughtfully curated portfolio. So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll dive into the flipper versus collector mindset. Then we'll build the $100 starter kit. Next up is spotting scams and red flags, followed by the barbell curation strategy, and finally, we'll cover securing and growing wealth. Let's jump right into Section 1, the flipper versus collector mindset. When you look at the raw data from platforms like OpenSea between 2021 and 2022, it's pretty grim. 80% of wallets that traded actually lost money, and we're talking an average loss of around $5,000. So you have to ask yourself, why on earth is that failure rate so incredibly high? Well, the answer lies in the brutal math of the flip game. The whole 2021 playbook was to mint a project, hype it up to the moon, list it for a higher price, and just pray. Out of 10,000 collections, maybe 50 actually succeeded. That is a 0.5% win rate. Flipping relies entirely on the greater fool theory. You literally just need someone to buy it at a higher price than you did. And when the music stops, 99% of people are left holding the bag. To be a trader, you need an edge, you need tools, and you need time. Most of us just don't have those. Which brings us to the new era of collecting. True collecting today means curating on-chain assets that actually give you real utility, access, or personal meaning. It's about fundamentally shifting your time horizon. Flippers hold for 7 days and stress constantly about liquidity. Collectors, we're holding for 7 years. You buy an asset because you actually use it, you love it, or you earn from it. The price going up, that's just a nice bonus, not the whole point. All right, moving on to Section 2, the $100 starter kit. So, how do you actually start building this foundation without losing your shirt to gas fees? It's super simple. Step 1, install the MetaMask Thrum extension. And please, write those 12 seed words down on physical paper. Never store them digitally. Step 2, add the Polygon chain. Why Polygon? Well, because making a mistake while learning on the Ethereum mainnet might cost you $20 a pop in gas. On Polygon, it costs literally a penny. Finally, step 3, just fund that wallet with $20. Now, with that funded wallet, here are the exact first 5 assets you should grab to build your base layer. First, an ENS name for about $5. That's basically your wallet's username. Next, a POAP, which is totally free and acts like a digital resume proving you were at an event. Then, a lens profile for $8 to establish your decentralized social presence. You can also grab a free art mint on Zora. You're just paying pennies in gas to support a creator. And lastly, a Galx OAT, again free, to prove your on-chain activity. Look at that. For under $15, you've established an actual base layer of identity, social presence, and digital history. Section 3 is absolutely crucial: spotting scams and red flags. Because out here, protecting your portfolio is just as important as building it. The number one thing to look at is the team behind the project. Are they publicly doxxed or are they hiding? A legitimate team has a real, traceable LinkedIn history, verifiable code commits on GitHub, and they aren't afraid to host live video AMAs. On the flip side, watch out for the glaring red flags. An anonymous founder whose entire bio is just CEO Web3, an absolutely empty GitHub, or, that sudden excuse about their webcam miraculously breaking right before an AMA. Look, an anonymous team with no actual product is almost certainly a scam. You also really need to look under the hood at the smart contract. You can do a 5-minute audit on Etherscan that will literally save you thousands of dollars. Check if the code is verified with a green checkmark. Make sure the team can't just mint 10,000 more tokens out of thin air. Check if the owner has renounced the contract, meaning they can't change the rules on you later. Ensure it's let an upgradable proxy, and definitely run the address through honeypot.is. The golden rule here is so simple. If a project hits 3 or more of these red flags, you walk away. no exceptions. Finally, be on high alert for fake hype. Check out the holders on Etherscan. You want to see widely distributed holders. If the top 10 wallets own 60% of the project, one whale dumping can tank your investment by 90% in a heartbeat. And keep an eye out for wash trading. That's where a team just sells an asset back and forth to themselves to make it look super popular. If you see the exact same two wallets trading at 3 a.m. or a price that jumps from $1 to 100 grand and right back down, that is not organic. Using analytics tools like Dune can really help you spot this fake volume. All right, Section 4, the barbell curation strategy. This is a brilliant adaptation of Nassim Taleb's barbell model, and what's so cool about it is how it perfectly balances safety with upside. The idea is that 90% of your portfolio goes into incredibly safe assets that you actually use, and only a strict 10% is risked on pure speculation. So breaking that down, 40% goes to your identity, things like your ENS and your POAPs. 30% goes to utility, assets that unlock access or earn you some yield. 20% goes to art that you genuinely love, and then just 10% for speculation, like throwing a dart at a new profile picture mint. This structure is what lets you sleep at night while still keeping that fun upside intact. Now for that 20% art bucket, the strategy is super clear. Buy the artist, not the project. Please don't buy into a 10,000-piece profile picture collection where we all know 9,999 of them will eventually go to zero. Instead, invest in a true one-of-one piece from an artist who is actively building a decade-long career. A fantastic rule of thumb here is, would you buy this if there was absolutely no roadmap? If the answer is yes, then go ahead and collect it. And that brings us to the utility bucket. The rule for utility is absolute, non-negotiable. It must work today. If a project is telling you, oh, staking is coming in Q4, that is a roadmap, and if you buy that, you are just buying hope. And let me tell you, hope in digital assets usually leads to a 90% loss. But if holding that asset gives you instant access to a private Discord server or a tool you can use right this very second, okay, now we're talking. That is real utility. Finally, Section 5, securing and growing wealth. Once your collection starts creeping over that $1,000 mark, you've got to practice essential crypto hygiene. You absolutely must buy a $79 Ledger hardware wallet. Think of your hot wallet like your walking around checking account and your Ledger like your locked down savings account. You also need to make it a habit to use revoke.cash every single month to remove old contract approvals. That stops potential drainers in their tracks. Keep an eye on things with a tracker like the Floor app, and please do not forget about taxes. Every single asset-to-asset trade you make is a taxable event. Set aside 30% of your gains, or you are going to get a very nasty surprise come April. So what does realistic growth actually look like over time? Spoiler alert, it's not turning 0.08 ETH into 8 ETH overnight. It is a grounded, decade-long journey. Year 1 is just taking your first $100 and building that identity base. Year 2, you scale to $1,000, maybe adding some utility that earns you $10 a month. By year 3, you hit 10 grand, incorporating some one-of-one art. And by year 10, you have thoughtfully accumulated a $100,000 digital stack. The key to all of this? Surviving the totally normal 95% market drawdowns during bear markets. You survive those by holding some cash and just quietly continuing to build your identity when the hype dies down. The author of this blueprint wraps things up with an incredibly powerful thought. They say a good NFT collection is not a stock portfolio. It's a digital life. And that hits a nail on the head, doesn't it? Your ENS is your name, your POAPs are your memories, your art reflects your personal taste, and your utility assets are your keys. This whole thing isn't about gambling anymore. It's about purposefully curating your own little corner of the internet. Because for the very first time, we actually have the ability to truly own our digital presence rather than just renting space from Web2 tech giants. You are building a legacy, piece by piece, right there on chain. So as you head out to curate your own collection using this blueprint, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. When someone looks back at your on-chain history years from now, what will your wallet say about you? Collect accordingly.